Hi, I'm Ailey for Design Break, and today I'm talking about branding and knowing your audience. Okay, so with branding, there's quite a lot of terms thrown around surrounding your customer or audience. So there's your target audience, customer personas, avatars, and a lot of different terms thrown around in different concepts and ideas. And this can start to seem really complex and confusing and really trip people up when they're trying to work out this part of their brand. And I'm a really big fan of trying to keep things as simple as possible. I do tend to overthink things quite a lot, but I try to take a step back as much as I can and think about things logically and just keep things simple and relatable so that people can actually action these concepts instead of getting stuck down a deep rabbit hole of confusing terms and concepts. Okay, so there's a few different terms. You've probably heard of them: target audience, customer avatars, customer personas, and these are all slightly different concepts. And the reality is you don't need to consider every one for your brand. You just really need to think about what you relate to and what works for your brand. Let's go through the terms first. So you've got your target audience, and this is kind of like a much more broad concept where you're thinking about like age ranges, general professions, gender, and kind of talking about your audience in a much more broader range. So you're almost like grouping your audience, lots of different sort of people into a group of that fit like the same sort of criteria. So it could be like students who live in Scotland, or digital professionals who enjoy the outdoors, or kind of like general terms like that. And then you've got your customer persona or avatar. These are slightly different terms, but they kind of mean quite a similar thing. So this is where you build up one specific ideal customer. So instead of a general group or audience, it's just one specific person. So it could be a real person, but typically it's a sort of fictional person that you base kind of around your ideal customer, who you think you're most likely to serve or who you want to serve with your product or service or brand. And this is where you get really, really specific and almost create a character or imagine a real person. So you give them a name, a job, a personality even, and really try to build it up and bulk it out as much as possible so that it's an actual person. And this is really useful when you're building a brand, because whenever you're doing your marketing or whenever you're creating a new range of products or a new line, you can always look at this ideal customer and make sure that you're appealing to them and make sure you're staying true to them. And that's how you really build a strong brand, because people who relate to that are really going to really connect onto that. And some people get a bit worried that maybe by doing that, by having that one specific persona, that you're maybe going to alienate some other people and really be way too narrow with your audience. But I actually think the opposite. When you really niche down like that and embrace like the weird unique things about your brand and your ideal customer. Okay, so you are appealing to that one kind of person, that one person that you're appealing to, but then you're also appealing to people who aspire to be that or who have traits in common. So if you think about your group of friends, they're not all carbon copies of you, but you still enjoy spending time with them and you relate to them and you understand them. So it's kind of like the same idea. People who like your brand and really connect with it might not specifically be a carbon copy of that one avatar, but they'll have a lot of traits in common, and maybe that's not what they are now, but maybe that's what they're aspiring to be, or they connect with certain aspects of it. But by you really niching down on that one specific concept in your head, it makes things a lot easier. Instead of trying to think about a whole group of people and a different audience, it really allows you to really be really direct with your brand voice and your marketing and what you're putting out there, because it's really clear and obvious in your head and you know exactly who you're speaking to. So I think that's really the best way to keep things simple. And something else about target audiences that makes me feel a bit uncomfortable as well is it's kind of dehumanizing. So you're almost thinking about your customer as a statistic rather than an actual person, which makes it a lot harder for you to connect to. And when you're writing your marketing as well, it makes it harder for you to write stuff that people can actually connect with, because you're thinking of your customer as a group of numbers, a group of statistics that isn't really relatable and isn't really something that you can act on. But to keep things simple and actionable, The easiest thing to do is to have one really specific persona that you're trying to speak to whenever you're doing your branding, especially when you're just starting out. And you can always tweak this persona if you're finding that what you thought your ideal customer was isn't actually who really loves your product. So it's always good to remember also to be flexible and not be super rigid, and always try to learn from any feedback you get and from putting stuff out there. So in reality, whatever you find makes most sense and is clear in your head, and whatever you find is most actionable is the best route to take. There's no one answer for everyone. It's really just about working out what works for you and what works for your brand, and what you can build on, and not just latching on to concepts and ideas because they seem like that's what the hot thing to do is. Whereas if you have a persona or an avatar, you're speaking to one specific person, you're going to be much more human. And something else that I like to keep in mind is that your people and your customers, your audience are all humans, and they're not buying from a robot or a machine. And your brand shouldn't be a robot or machine either. It should be something that people can connect to and get behind. I hope that helped clarify target audiences, customers, personas, avatars, and that whole concept so that you can actually act on it in your branding. If you've got any questions about this area and how it relates to your branding, let me know in the comments below and I'll try to cover it in a future video. Thanks for watching. Bye.